In concrete form, it is an agent. That is to say, anything not human that can be said to be perceiving and acting upon and within its environment. Modern AI is different than other earlier forms in AI because it does not simply seek to comprehend intelligence, it seeks to build it as well. What does that mean? I'm going to stop for a second. Some recent AI tests have found that two artificial intelligence started inventing their own language when they started talking to each other, which raised a lot of recent concerns about should we allow AI to actually invent their own languages and communicate with each other. So there's an example where it's actually building its own intelligence, or even a language in that case. Understanding artificial intelligence. Before we start thinking it's all gloom and doom, let's just take a moment to think about what artificial intelligence is. There's really four ways to think about artificial intelligence. These were actually first theorized in 1950 by Alan Turing. In that regard, what they did was an early form of a chatbot. What they were able to do was have a human interrogator or agent communicate with a computer. And the idea was simple. Using a keyboard, this agent would talk to a computer, and the notion was, could they tell they were talking to a person or a computer? How obvious it was. And Turing really theorized that AI should be able to either think human, agents that think the way humans think, act human, agents that act the way humans act, think rational, agents that think rationally, act rational, agents that act rationally. This was the Turing test. Now this test has actually stood the test of time. It's been around for quite a while. There's been certain additions to it, but really these four premises are pretty good, and we can use those as we go through this chapter. Why is AI important to the study of MIS, Management Information Systems? Until recently, AI only had a limited place within the MIS field. With the advent of intelligent agents and robotic process automation, AI is slowly moving into the mainstream and even touches upon some areas where it was not expected. For example, a recent informal study of the medical industry by students at Barry University found the use of virtual doctors was starting to emerge in an entrepreneurial capacity. Some pretty clever people thought that what they could do was provide basic information to customers of hospitals or insurance companies and collect the information through using semi-intelligent agents. By doing this, they were able to grab that information and then send the information to medical practitioners. By doing that, they were able to reduce the number of how much time somebody actually waited online trying to ask basic information. The bot could simply ask, what are your office hours? And the bot would reply what the office hours were. The person may or may not know they were talking to a computer. Artificial intelligence. What is machine learning? Machine learning is within the field of artificial intelligence. It is a form of artificial intelligence. Are intelligent agents to analyze data and learn from errors to build better algorithms to predict a better business behavior or outcome. Now, for example, machine learning is widely used in the credit card industry. Have you ever had a credit card transaction denied because it was suspicious payment activity or something like that? What the machine learning algorithm did was it studied all the transactions that you as a consumer tend to make. It looks at transactions, the places you go to eat, the things you tend to buy, and it looks at that. When it looks, then all of a sudden it gets a request that's not typical. Let's say, for example, you only buy a computer once every 3 years, and all of a sudden you buy 5 computers. That's a bit odd. You don't typically buy bulk computers in that regard, even during the holidays. So that's kind of strange. Maybe we should be looking into that. The other thing is it's smart enough to know that you're on a business trip. It looks and says, oh, you had airfare, you're in this city. It probably would expect that you had hotels and taxis and restaurant charges coming into that one. So it actually looks for those things. It understands. It depends on the level of intelligence how much it can do. But then it makes mistakes, right? It's not perfect. And then you get a credit card warning, then you tell it that, no, this is an authorized purchase. And then it knows something, it learns something. It's like, oh, maybe that person does buy 5 computers and that they give to charity for whatever reason. But that's because they interacted with you and then built more intelligence. So that's a form of machine learning. What is robotic process automation? Robotic process automation, or RPA, is a form of automation that is aimed at automating repetitive tasks without necessarily changing the way something is programmed or works. In its simplistic form, RPA duplicates humans' actions where not much thought is required. Step one. Doesn't really even think human, it just replicates some of the human actions. For example, an accounts payable person keys in the details of an invoice, navigates it to the payment module of an ERP to schedule a payment, then writes an email to the vendor stating when the next check run is and that that invoice will be paid on that run. An RPA, in this case, would simply copy the keystrokes. It would get the invoice, it would scan it, it would look for the amounts, it would key those amounts into a computer, it would navigate to the ERP system, it would process the payment details just like the human. It would actually do nothing different. The problem with the RPA is that they're rather limited because it's only used to mimic human. It has no machine learning capabilities associated with it. It doesn't have any automated interfaces or anything like that. RPAs tend to just be a fancy macro, just be able to duplicate tasks. So if you have a highly routine task, this is something that could be eligible for an RPA type of activity. It's also one of the fields that MIS is really looking at as to enhance their productivity in those regards. So this picture is an excellent picture of the thinker. This is a picture in an artistic demo. This is not the end of everything, as you know. This is just simply, it's not an RPA and would likely not pass the Turing test. It's just a graphic art. That's the other thing to keep into perspective is AI is taking form, but its ability to really achieve all four of those or pass all four of the Turing tests is very limited. So usually it works within a specific environment to produce a specific task. Where it does have an advantage is it's able to test things multiple times by using a computer CPU in that regard. That's an advantage it has until it starts building a better algorithm. So modern AI is able to look at that, start running algorithms, and then learning where it makes mistakes so it won't make the mistake the next time. And as it keeps running those algorithms, it gets better every day. Special considerations. With the advent of AI and everything going into place and everybody talking about all these jobs and things like that might be replaced with that, it actually is an opportunity to create jobs. And AI and robotic process automation are things that need to be programmed and configured in those ways. So some of the things to think about, there is that negative notion where should AI and RPAs be taxed? If you're replacing workforces that were doing routine tasks, there's an economic or social penalty to be signed. So there's a school of thought that some AI and RPA should be taxed to make up for the income that will be displaced. Should AI limits or constraints be legislated? There's another school of thought. The other thing I pose to you is, how can humans and AI coexist? How can you put it together? The medical AI or chatbots were pretty interesting, right? Because they were able to interact with the consumer, provide them meaningful information, but yet still send the information to the medical office where people could see all the activity going on and didn't have to go through all the preliminary upfront, well, what kind of appointment do you want? Which doctor do you like to see? A lot of that was vetted well in advance, and they could call back the patient in that regard and then work things out. Things to consider. AI is one of the most exciting areas in MIS, and it is becoming prevalent in many day-to-day activities. For example, consumers are frequently exposed to commercials from IBM and various other home agents, which are becoming a commodity of sorts. You can now have home agents or home intelligence agents that can control all your consumer electronics, all the Internet of Things in your house, your refrigerator, your thermostat, the temperature of your home, the lights in your house. These intelligent agents act as your agent, so it certainly is becoming in the forefront. While we may have talked about this in a consumer point of view, it is becoming very present in a corporate point of view as well. And like I mentioned earlier, the exciting part is that this machine learning and AI opens a whole new career opportunity. All these opportunities need to be configured. They don't know how to act human because they haven't been told yet. So one of the things that you have an opportunity to do is think about how we embrace these in a socially responsible manner to assist